The ground shakes before you ever see the enemy. Dirt rains into your eyes. The stench of mud, rot, and unwashed bodies is thicker than the smoke. This is the Western Front 1916, where survival is measured not in days, but in hours. A whistle cuts through the chaos. It isn't music, it's a death sentence. You grab the ladder, hands raw, legs trembling. Above you, machine guns chatter like mechanical demons. The order is clear. Go over the top. You haul yourself out of the trench, the mud grips your boots like it wants you buried here. The moment your helmet crests the edge, the sky rips open. Bullets hiss past your ears. Men stumble beside you, cut down mid-step, their bodies swallowed back into the mire. The air reeked of cordite, blood, and something worse. Fear so strong it's almost tangible. Your only shield is luck, and luck runs out fast in no man's land. For every meter gained, dozens fall. The generals call it valor, the soldiers call it slaughter. And as you crawl forward under fire, you realize the truth. This isn't war. It's industrialized misery, grinding human lives into mud and wire. But the madness of trench warfare wasn't random chaos. It was designed, commanded, and justified. And nowhere was that clearer than in Verdun. Verdun, 1916. 9 months of slaughter, 300 days of hell. The French called it "Ils ne passeront pas." They shall not pass. But the truth, neither side really did. It all started with General Falkenhayn's plan. Don't just attack France, wear her down. Verdun was a symbol of French pride. General Philippe Pétain was determined to hold Verdun at all costs, turning it into a symbol of endurance with reinforcements rushing in. The scale was unreal. Over 60 million artillery shells pounded a few kilometers, driving men insane. Trenches became craters, filled with bodies. Soldiers wrote home describing fields where the earth itself seemed made of flesh. One French officer admitted, "Corpses are everywhere. The living lie on the dead. We fight on ground soaked in blood." But the generals wouldn't back down. Falkenhayn thought the French would crack first, while Pétain believed they could take anything. By the end, Verdun claimed over 700,000 casualties. The land was no longer battlefield, but charnel ground. The maps changed little. The lives lost were beyond counting. But Verdun is not just remembered in diaries and war records. Its scars are still there, carved into the soil, preserved in trenches and bones that keep surfacing to this day. Walk the fields of Verdun today, and the silence deceives you. The forests look green, the hills seem calm. But just beneath the moss and grass, the war is still alive. Trenches linger, not just ruins, but scars. Zigzagging cuts in the earth reveal secrets. Twisted barbed wire, rusted helmets, and rifle fragments. It's a place where rain uncovers the past without needing a spade. Local farmers call it the iron harvest. Every spring, plows dig up shells, bullets, and bones. Even after all this time, unexploded ordnance is still everywhere, reminding us that the war just sank into the soil. Thousands of bodies are still missing, lost to mud and fire. Sometimes, skeletal remains pop up, tangled with gear. The French call them les disparus. Families never got closure. Verdun became sacred ground with ossuaries for tens of thousands of unidentified dead. At Douaumont Ossuary, walls bear names, but behind them lie skulls and bones stacked like firewood. A century later, the dead still gather. What does it mean when a battlefield never stops bleeding into the present? When archaeology feels less like discovery and more like exhumation? The truth of Verdun is that history here doesn't sleep. It surfaces in rust, in bone, in silence. And while soldiers' remains rise from the mud, so too does the question, what were they dying for when those above them feasted untouched? While boys rotted in the trenches, high command feasted in chateaux, enjoying fine Bordeaux and Riesling, all while plotting strategies over fancy multi-course meals. For them, war was just numbers and stats. Casualty lists weren't screams. Thousands lost were just acceptable attrition. Verdun was an equation. The soldiers in the trenches knew the harsh truth. They faced moldy bread, fattened rats, and disease, praying for clean water, a warm blanket, or just another morning. Letters home show a stark contrast. One soldier said, "We live like animals while the generals enjoy their comfort." The war machine kept rolling. The powerful stayed safe while the rest suffered, gambling with lives they'd never understand. Verdun ended with no clear winner. Ground gained was just meters, while lives lost were in the hundreds of thousands. Ordinary men died while strategists kept their reputations intact. And that is the gut punch of trench warfare. Survival wasn't decided by courage or by strength, but by class. Generals planned history with ink. Soldiers wrote it in blood.